Hello, people of the internet, fellow filmmakers and cinephiles. We're here at the UWI Film Program once again to shoot the podcast, It's a Film Thing. Woohoo! If you know, you know. All right, so I'm this evening's host, Rebecca Gillen, the very talkative, very amazing, and Nariba's favorite past alumni. Well, current alumni. Anyways, so let's begin. So today we'll be discussing the film that amassed over 3.5 million views on YouTube, and it is called A Fresh Start, A New Beginning with God. And I'll be introducing our special guests, the filmmakers themselves, Kivonne and Stephan. Yay! 3.5 million views, guys. We'll find out how. Okay, so for those who may not know, both Kivonne and Stephan are graduates of the UWI Film Program. So, Kivonne, I shall turn this way. Tell us a bit about yourself and your life as a UWI Film student, and we'll get to you soon, so don't feel left out.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, for having us. I've been a past student here, graduated 11 years ago. It's been quite a journey, studying film and now realizing this vision that all of us as filmmakers, making film. So it's been quite an eventful journey.
Stephan, what about you?
All right, so I've not graduated quite as long as Kiv. I left in 2016, and that is just because I would have had a past career in broadcast. So I was working and going to school at the same time. So film and being a part of the film program for me was about getting the theory part of it to complement the practical work that I would have been doing before, to have a more holistic stands in the field of film and broadcast and stuff. So it was a very long journey, an exciting one, a rough one, because I never liked school. But I found something that I love. So when I found out that there was a film program, it was the one thing that caused me to want to get into tertiary level education, to be honest. So I was able to jump into something that I loved and better myself, better my craft by getting the theory. So I'm really, really grateful to UWI for having a film program so people like myself could do something that they actually love.
Join UWI today. All right, so how did you two come together to make this film?
Well, it was actually during COVID. During COVID, churches, we had to adapt to not being to physically be there in that spaces, physically in churches. So having a film background, most other persons, they were using the Zoom platform. But having that background, I decided, maybe we can stream. So I came together with a few technical persons and I started streaming at my church. But as we know, film is a very difficult and challenging thing. So you always need help. It's a collaborative effort. So I would have reached out to Stephan, and he would have volunteered his time and his creativity, his talent to come and use it. And we were able to captivate individuals, and it was, something that it was different in terms of Christian streaming of worship programs, because it was well produced, because again, we owe it all to our background in filmmaking.
Okay, let's officially begin this podcast interview, but first, let's take a look at this clip.
Brunel, wait, let me explain.
Don't touch me, Elijah. Sorry to disturb you, right? Go back by your woman.
Brunel, nothing is going on. She was just helping me clean a spill.
Clean? That's how you just clean, Elijah. She was touching all up in your chest and all kind of thing.
Giselle and I are just colleagues. We work together and that's
Work
it.
at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? I go in the bathroom to vomit because I'm pregnant with your child and seeing messages from Giselle. That's work?
We just sending jokes to each other, Brunel.
Jokes, Elijah? I don't care. I don't care. I saw you just... I don't know what's wrong with you.
You want to see my phone, Brunel?
Elijah,
Look.
you are a grown man. I'm not supposed to have to go through your phone.
Brunel.
You know what? You was right. These past 6 months have been miserable. I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do with you anymore. I can't do it. Here,
Renel,
Take it.
I don't want these.
I don't want
Renel.
you.
All right, so our first question is mostly for the audience, and it's a really tough one, so watch out, get your brain caps on. All right, what is the film about? You could just give our listeners a little understanding, especially after watching the trailer. So let us know what it's about.
So, A Fresh Start, A New Beginning with God is basically part 2 of a trilogy, and it goes into different issues that people face. A lot of times people, and especially Christians and people watching at Christians, or church people as people like to call Christians, face issues that are very taboo. Sometimes people feel, because I'm a Christian, I can't talk out about issues because we're not supposed to have issues, and we don't have those type of problems in here. And the purpose of the film is to draw to light issues that actually do exist in the church. And this one in particular, A Fresh Start, deals with young marriage and marital issues, and pointing people to a point where they could identify with issues that they might have, or to avoid them having issues pertaining to rushing into marriage. And knowing that with God, you can work through difficult situations, you can work through difficult choices and difficult decisions with the right coping mechanisms in place. So that is more or less what the film is about.
Beautiful. All right, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'm going to make sure they put the link in the description below. Let's get this film to 4 million views. That's my goal now, even though I didn't make the film, but that's my new goal.
Thank you for having the goal.
All right, so how did this film come about? As in, like, what motivated you to produce this concept? I know you all talked a bit just now with your Christianity background, and then the live streaming of the actual church. I don't know what I'm saying right now, sorry. But yeah, go ahead. I'm trying.
Yeah, that's okay. We have to remember it was during COVID. During COVID, families were isolated in their homes, and a lot of issues were brought about because persons were in their homes. But beyond that, we know as a society, families are basically, we have a lot of broken homes. And this is, the impact of this is far-reaching. It affects children, it affects society from a wider basis. I remember doing a film in year 2 for my documentary, where I tried to show that parents were the real crime stoppers. That's a lot of the issues that are facing in our society, crime-related, it's because of the brokenness of the home. So as a church, we are not immune to some of these challenges. And we would, the leadership, we would have taken a decision to treat with some of these things. And again, having a creative background, we decided, you know what, instead of them just preaching a sermon, what we can do is kind of tell a story using the visual medium, because everybody was home looking at screens. So we said we would produce episodes to go along with the sermons. And then it just took off. Individuals, they were really able to connect with the stories and the issues. And persons were looking forward to looking at it week after week. So really and truly, even though you're seeing a film, it was produced technically episodic. That's how it was for 7 weeks, and we would have produced 7 films. And each, you could see it, it has chapter markers in the film itself. That's when you would see the biblical text and stuff. And every point, step of the way, we dealt and we showcased different issues and how, with God, you know, with counseling, with proper communication, these issues can be resolved. So that was the whole mechanism behind it. It took a lot of effort, as we know with filmmaking, but we were able to do that by God's grace.
Well, I'd just like to say you can see the importance of film and having a creative background on many avenues of people's lives. So, you know, parents, let your children do creative things. All right, so again, we already know the film has a faith-based background. You can see it throughout the film, especially with the scriptures, like you mentioned, for the book of Proverbs. So this film falls under very rarely used genre in the Caribbean, which is the religious film genre.
Yeah.
in this instance with a focus on obviously Christianity. So this is a typically untouched or rarely used in the local market. So just tell us a little bit about that, because it's niche.
Yeah. The reality is that the Christian population in Trinidad, it's quite large. It's 50%, of our population, and even the Caribbean region. I remember a few years ago, Dr. Ramasa, he wrote something. I believe it was for a magazine, or something was written. He was being interviewed, and basically he spoke about the Caribbean New Wave, saying that we as filmmakers, we need to tell our own stories and develop our own systems and ways. Sometimes as Caribbean filmmakers, we tend to look external to try and get ideas. But what we've realized, and for us, even when we were studying here, we've always wanted to tell our stories, which were positive Christian stories. And we see that there's an appetite for it. There is definitely an appetite for it in the Caribbean context, in the Trinidadian context. We are more than just carnival and, sand, beaches, crime. We have more stories to tell. Coconut trees, right? We have more stories to tell. And, when we think of the greatest show on earth that they call Carnival, 50% of our population, they may not subscribe to that. And they go to something called Carnival Camp. That's so that's an untapped market, I think, as filmmakers, we can capitalize on.
Beautiful, beautiful. Very true, very true. Sorry. All right, so let's see. How do you think the film was received by people of other religions and other faiths in Trinidad? Because, I'm focusing mostly in Trinidad and Tobago right now, but, we have a very broad religious background, as in there are many different religious backgrounds here. So how do you think this Christian-based film was viewed, or viewed from, like, people of other religious backgrounds? Yeah.
So even though, again, in Christianity, there are many denominations, but this story and these issues are so universal. The story, as Stephan would have suggested, is about young love. It's generational issues, a younger couple feeling that they know everything. These things are universal, and then experience speaking to them. So what we've seen is sometimes things that we've experienced ourselves, feeling that at times you may know more than your parents, and your parents feel because they have experience. So we were able to showcase those issues. And these things, as I said, are universal. So it was able to transcend denomination. It was able to go beyond in the general Christian world and even beyond. And Trinidad is 1.4 million in our population. The film is currently at 3.5. A lot of the viewership and the data that we got from TTT, because it's on TTT's online platform, showed that a lot of the views came from the African diaspora. 70%. Yeah. So we have Nigeria. Yeah.
Please repeat.
I was saying over 70% of the viewership was from outside of Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
Yeah, so the film was able to reach those individuals, again, because the themes were universal. Now, is it something that we thought could have happened? We weren't sure at that time. We were just using our talents and doing the best that we could with the limited resources that we had. But the film, and if you look at some of the comments, it was able to touch lives both here and abroad.
Yeah, the comment section is amazing. People saying how much the film inspired them or how it was related to their lives. And people were even talking about like their own life experiences that closely mirrored the film. And I read paragraphs upon paragraphs. I think someone even wrote, I don't even know how many words they wrote, dictating their entire life story. And I was going, wow, the fact that the impact it had on people and how they're able to see themselves in this film. And they even said they weren't even Christian. Like, I think they were agnostic or something, but that's not important. All right, so this is the last question of this segment. Do you think this film accomplished the message that you intended it to?
I think it definitely did. Kivonne and I and Chanel would have taken our time to come up with the storyline and the different plots and the twists and the turns in it. And once you have a good story, a relatable story, and then by God's grace, you couple that with the right crew and cast and put the different things together and mix it in a pot, you will get the result that you look forward to. So I think that the film reached and is still reaching the audiences that it was intended to reach, and it continues to do that. It was 3.5 million just a few short weeks ago. It's 3.572,000 and counting. So every day is thousands of views it getting, and I think that is because of the message and the way it's being received by the audience out there.
4 million, 4 million, 4 million, 4 million. Yeah, let's get there. And then soon 10 million, 10 million.
100 million
dollars.
Yeah, the dollars would be nice to have.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Okay, let's head on to the second segment now. So given that it was targeting such a niche part of the industry, what was the process like getting the film up and running? Let's talk money, budget. Go.
Well, the backbone of churches is volunteerism. So churches are accustomed with persons availing themselves, their talent, their creativity, their equipment, everything, all in the effort for the mission. So we were able initially, we had challenges, and the challenges that we had initially, because the only two professional filmmakers were Steph and I, and we got also, along the way, we encouraged Chanel Spooner, a former alumni also, a graduate of the UWI Film Program. So she was able to be part of the whole scripting process and everything. We had our technical challenges. Yes, limited budgets like everything else, limited equipment. But again, what we had was a team, a strong team. Yes, everyone wasn't professional, but they believed in what we were doing and they were willing to learn. Even the actors themselves, and I know not everyone are professionals. 99% of them weren't professionals, all right? They had theater backgrounds, at least 2 or 3 of them had theater backgrounds, but majority non-professionals. So we had to adapt to the challenge. Again, when we're thinking of filmmaking, you think of the traditional Hollywood style of filmmaking. And I think what we had to do was to really adapt, where persons came together. The church itself also would have invested in equipment. Persons would have given of money and spaces we needed, locations and whatever. Again, we looked towards the church. Persons in the church, they would have availed their homes. Who had an extra home, who had an extra couch, this, that, props, everything. Persons came together. Hospital bed. And interestingly, because again, we were dealing with non-professionals, to make it easier on them, their names are actually their first names. So Brian is actually Brian. Kyle Renell is Renell. That's a real name.
Elijah's Elijah.
Elijah is Elijah. Their last names might be different, but we made it easy for them, to fall into character by using their real names. So we were able to try and adjust to and adapt. We didn't get everything that we wanted, but again, we had a strong team, their willingness to commit. Stephan is a very stickler for continuity. Again, I was working in terms of editing, so cameras, lights, we had to do ad hoc things. We know as a Caribbean filmmakers what we do to try and get it done, but thankfully everything came together. But I must say, one thing that we really spent a lot of time on was the story. Story is important, and I think sometimes as filmmakers we get so wrapped up in the technology and all those other aspects of filmmaking, but I think story is key. And that is what resonated with, I believe, with individuals, the story itself. So they were able to overlook some of the little technical challenges that we had because, again, the story resonated with them.
That the way you're talking about making the film just reminds me of like Capstone in
Yes.
UWI.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like, it felt like you're on a student film set again. But it's amazing how even after graduating, all you could come together and like support each other and then your community as well. Because I mean, instead of having schoolmates, like your friends and family from church, and
Yes.
they were basically now your classmates
Yeah.
in UE, helping like, hey, can I borrow your couch? Hey, yeah, can I use your room as my whole backdrop and stuff, or your house?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so that's basically what happened as well.
Mm-hmm.
So funding was done by yourselves, the church, and friends and family.
Yes.
Along with one or two corporate
Yeah,
like-
so definitely. So the second time around, because of the success of the first one, we were able now to try and capitalize on that success. So TTT would have given us some funds, nominal. But again, we were able to go to Massey, we were able to go to different corporate vendors, and they were able to support, whether it be some cases of water for set. We know how set everything. Looking and studying film, when we learned from the American type industry, you'd hear that they are low budget films at 10 million.
US, eh?
USD.
Not even TT. Oh my gosh.
Their low budget films are 10 million US. That's 60. That's 60 billion TT.
That's the dream.
We're nowhere close to that. We're nowhere close to that. You're talking about low, ultra low budgets. But again, what I appreciate about the film program, what we studied here, we didn't only study, the Hollywood system. We studied cinemas from all over the world. And one in particular, the Nigerian, Nollywood, they were able to take low-budget films. And even we here in the Caribbean, we buy these DVDs. Families, they look at it because they're so captivated by these stories. And there's something about seeing ourselves on screen, people who look like us, who sound like us. And I think that really, again, resonated with persons. So it showed us the possibility, even with limited budgets, even with limited equipment. Once we come together, even Capstone showed you all that, and again, our community, our church community, we came together. You can do so much with little, so it was really an experience.
Just really quickly on that, I think, as Kiv would have told me when he approached me to come on board with the whole streaming process and whatnot, this is what we were made for. This is why we were exposed. This is why God would have allowed us to come to film school and stuff. And listening to what you guys are saying, it just draws reference to nothing happens per chance. So even having a background in broadcast in a station like Gael, I always choose to mention them because I don't take things for granted. Gael was a place where, as Kiv talked about, people seeing themselves on screen and whatnot. That is what caused Gael to grow into what it was at the point in time, because they were a station that had regular average Trinidadians on a set, and people would gravitate to seeing a bit about themselves on it. I know this is very emotional for you. It's going to be okay.
I know.
It's
I
gonna
feel
be
like I'm
okay.
Renelle right now. She cried so much in that film.
I'm just playing. I know he's giving a bit of trouble. And that, one of my old mentors, Ricky Latif, would have said, let's find a way to make it happen. We have very little money. We have very little equipment. But let's not focus on what we can't do. Let's focus on what we can do with what we actually have. And then coming to the film program, as Kiv would have mentioned, Ramasa, which is one of my mentors, and the whole Caribbean New Wave and that kind of thing, it caused me to coin a style of filmmaking that I do, which I call semi-orthodox filmmaking. So I was confused as to what to do. I wanted to do docudramas and those type of things because I'm not into the whole set of cussing and the whole set of gang violence and things that you find a lot of Trinbagonian movies. So it was happy for me to be able to now know, well, all right, we have the Hollywood template, but we don't have to use the Hollywood template. We could use something different that is a blend. And then we have the church that okay some things and frown on some things, and we could blend certain things that would now bring about something new and be able to have it out there and tell the story, tell our story, and do it with the little resources that we have and the willing people that we have, which is the blessing, in spite of not having the low budget 10 million US to work with, which we'd be happy
One
to have,
day.
please. Happy to have. Just send the low budget our way.
Give
We'll
me
make
money.
miracles with it. So yeah.
So then, what I'm hearing is the two very important things for Caribbean filmmaking: story, and then the mindset you go into creating that story. Beautiful. Okay. So 3.5 million views. Well, 3.5 million thousand and something. We won't get into all the numbers. Just one question, really. Like how? How? Because I'm positive many people in the industry want to know. I want to know myself because, I mean, a documentary we put out, my team put out, 400 views. And we were like, oh my God, 400 views. This is amazing. And then I'm like, hey, I'm going to come interview Kivonne and Stephan for their film that made 3.5 million. And then we were like, man, the dream. So how, especially for up and coming filmmakers, or even filmmakers that have been in the industry for a while, how do you go about gaining those views?
I could try and tell you we have the formula, but I would be lying if I say that, right? What I believe it is, though, and I could only speculate, it's the story itself. And when you look at the comments, it was able to resonate with audiences. It's universal. You know, sometimes when we make films, as Stephan would have suggested, you make it for the 1%. You make it for, the grassroots, so the crime and whatever. But I believe this film was more universally themed with issues. And that's what we wanted to do, because sometimes films, you see the ultra rich or the lives that you're not a part of that world. Yeah. But this was more, I would say, more like middle class issues. The family wasn't in abject poverty. They weren't extremely wealthy. They had dreams. And as young persons, growing up, I'm not that young anymore, but, when I was growing up, you would have dreams. And when you look at the story, Elijah had this checklist of things that he wanted to achieve in life. So this resonated with persons. Of course, he had the wrong perspective on life, but I think it was able to resonate with persons not only here in Trinidad, the Caribbean, but throughout the region, And what we got from feedback too, we saw that in North America, because they were looking at it too. Because again, it's the diaspora. We saw that the diaspora, especially those in North America, they were locked up home just like all of us. And they were feeling a little nostalgic. They wanted to see home. So even when we were showing issues, they saw their people. They heard their accents. They heard, the Caribbean spaces we shot in. Again, you saw that. It was so nice. And the feedback we got from individuals who looked abroad and everything, they felt connected to the film. From folks in Africa, when we looked at it, again, we saw similarities. They would have identified similarities. And I spoke before about the untapped audience, which is the Christian base. So we saw our aunts, our uncles, Yes, they were sharing the senior demographic. We weren't just making films for ourselves. We were, again, because the film was meant to tell a story that was able to, transcend even the demographics of just the young. It was able to connect with a wide demographic of individuals. So we saw persons, and people would meet us, and they said, I saw the film. And, even senior persons, I saw the film. And it was able to go on TTT's platform, which is far-reaching too. They have, I think, now over 200,000 subscribers. So we partnered with TTT, and TTT was able to, again, capitalize on their audience base. And folks were able to see it on television. It's also in Caribvision in the region. Some other streaming platforms would have reached out to us from different places, and they wanted to put it on. Because, again, it's Christian films genre that, as you would suggested before, it's untapped. So,
what I would say is, a lot of times, unfortunately, local and Caribbean productions are not very well executed, because a lot of people either drop the ball when it comes to audio or when it comes to the story, and they just tend to use spectacles. So a lot of nakedness, a lot of gang violence. And the reality is, people have the power of choice to choose what they want to watch. To be able to, as Kiv was referring to, people from the diaspora who live all over the place, to be able to see something that was well done, as much as it could have been even better done, but well done to the ability that we had afforded to us. And it be something clean, something you don't have to worry about, no nakedness, etc., etc., if you're not into that. No sort of bloodshed and cussing and different things. It's a movie that you could sit with your whole family, from your baby to the big ones, and rather block no child eyes at no point in time, clog nobody ears, fast forward that part. I know Christian families who watch movies just because they want entertainment and have a fast forward parts in front of the chair. You know, what? Don't look at this part here. And you could sit and enjoy it because the story captivating, and because of that, people watch it and hey, this is actually good. And we got that from the first one. And because of the first one, people started looking and people started subscribing. Hey, we need more films like this. You keep hearing people, when will come on with something else? Where's the next one? So when the next one came, and it was even better executed than the first one, I think people shared it more, and it organically went from house to house, and people keep talking about it going up in there, and they keep seeing it popping up in their feed, keep popping up until they decided to watch it, and they're so glad they watched it, and then they shared it. So I think having a niche product that was done better than value-wise, I talk about production value-wise, than the majority with a clean story, gave it wings and caused it to take off. To God be the glory for that, because it's not about us.
True.
Well, I guess also during COVID too, because yes, it's a serious film, but then when the ending is wholesome, because you get this message like, yes, we can get through the hard times, especially with the power of God and believing and actually trying hard. Especially during COVID, everybody was having a really hard time. So to watch something that had hope and positivity versus, you know, watching something where people are dying, because people were dying, you didn't want to be stuck in that negative zone. You wanted something that kind of left you feeling, okay, I feel positive, I feel good, and I know that if I believe and I try hard, then I can succeed through the power of prayer. My grandmother liked the film. She's a Catholic. Yeah, she enjoyed it. I showed it to her.
A lot of grannies looked at the film. A lot of grannies and grandpas looked at the film also.
All right, this is the last question for this segment, and I'm going to bring it up again because 3.5 million views is a lot of views. So, like, was the film monetized on YouTube? Did you make any revenue from it? Like, obviously, just from, you know, being part of the UWI Film Program, I wanted to know, because I know monetization is kind of hard in Trinidad as well, specifically. I mean, maybe even throughout the Caribbean. I don't know how it is everywhere else, but.
Well, we had a partnership with TTT, and the contractual agreement wasn't really, they really wanted to show it on their television station, and it was an afterthought to let's put it up on YouTube. But it was a request that we were really okay with, because for us it's about mission, it's about getting the message out there. So yes, it came up to we weren't thinking necessarily about the money aspect. We inquired about it, but again, I'm sure if you all do your research, when you get a lot of views, it doesn't necessarily, and millions of views doesn't necessarily translate to a lot of money. It depends on where those views are located. If it's located in the US, you get a lot more per view. But a lot, as Steph would have mentioned, are in the African continent. So there wasn't a lot generated. We didn't really inquire about it because for us, as again, I don't think it was that amount. We should maybe ask TTT and see. But for us, no, we didn't get anything.
It wasn't the end goal anyway.
No, it wasn't.
Making the movie, because I know a lot of people make films for profit, but like that wasn't. That's
No.
not the main motivator behind the film. It
No,
was the message,
no.
education.
But it takes money to make films. So we didn't mind getting funds to try and help further projects. So that's fine. Again, companies would have sponsored and, you know, different things. And we know we can leverage the success of that 3.5 million to now go to companies. And again, they can believe in you. Sometimes as filmmakers, we forget that the monies that companies have, or even the government that they have, is that we are entitled to it, that you should support local. But that isn't necessarily the case, because it's hard-earned money that these companies and even the government has. So they have to see value for the money that they are giving to us, even if it's a grant, they're sponsoring whatever. Even if there's a tax break, they have to be able to see value in it. And now, because of the success, we can be able now to capitalize on saying, hey, we were able to generate X amount of views. We are capable of producing this thing. So now you can invest in this and partner with us. So that's the hope, that's the intention, and that's what we've been doing.
Don't forget about me when you get those investments.
Sure.
All right, so switching gears. All right. Oh, I switched gears too hard there.
You're drifting.
Yeah, I'm drifting over there. All right, so we're all big fans of Caribbean film. Yeah, obviously we here in UWI, we cheer Caribbean film because we are Caribbean filmmakers.
That's what we do.
All right, so do you believe this film is a decent representation of Caribbean film, or at least of Trinidad? You kind of sent me answer this, but I mean, this is a question, so let's deep dive into it.
Yeah, I think that it is. We did our research, we did our homework, we tried to have representations of all different walks of life, Caribbean, Trinbagonian, from how people look, the ages, the places that we would have shot. So from locations to the talent to the dialect, not having them speak too proper, but yet still, because a lot of the comments, I
confident
love the
accents
accent.
like mine.
Where are they from? I love the accent. And so we didn't want to lose our identity. Again, in my head, that is why I talk about semi-orthodox stuff. So you don't have to not be yourself, because you have to talk so proper and be upright and.
Like me earlier when I was doing the intro. It took us 40 minutes. That's an aside for you.
Yeah, again, as I would have mentioned before, in the Caribbean context, we have many stories. We have many subcultures within the general culture. When people think of the Caribbean, and we had this when we did Caribbean studies, they ask you, what is Caribbean? What is Trinidadian? And that's sometimes a difficult question to answer.
Because we are all Trinidadian.
Yeah, and we look differently.
People in America might not think so, but we are.
We've seen even in the comments where people asking if, this Jamaican film is, because again, when they think of the Caribbean, they think of the most popular one, the Jamaicans, all right? So, and we would have to tell them, no, this is shot in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
That's
right?
when you have to put on the accent and talk nice.
But again, you have to be authentic. That's what Steph was alluding to. You have to be true to yourself. So we wanted to reflect that. Even though you want a wide audience base, they want to see your story. The themes are universal, but the characters are local, right? So the backdrop, the things they were drinking, everything, people connected. It was amazing to hear, especially the diaspora, and even in some of our recent films, like we included cocoa tea and some elements of those things. Morbi and things like that people drink.
Morbi.
It's not soda, and things that
it's not Capri Sun. Sorry, that's a meme online. Well, from like 10 years ago.
But again, they look like you, and they spoke, they look like you. So in viewing that, and again, the demographic of Trinidad is wide also. Young, old, different races. So we were intentional in trying to include that. To ensure that everyone can possibly see themselves, that these characters would be relatable. And I think that's what was able to make the film successful. Yes, it is a Caribbean film. Could we really put our fingers on what made it a Caribbean film? I don't think you can, because it was shot in the Caribbean, the backdrop was Caribbean, the actors were Caribbean, the story was a Caribbean story. How the mothers connected, and the mother-daughter argument there. Again, even though it may be universal, again, that was, I've lived with my sister, my mom, we'd hear them argue like that at times. So that informed even some of the storytelling, the way that we did it, the way that the actors themselves, they portrayed, they brought to life, themselves. So it wasn't too difficult for them in terms of, they weren't necessarily pretending to be this far-fetched, fictitious character. They knew persons in their community, maybe themselves had experiences like that, so they were able to effectively reflect real life of someone in a Caribbean space.
Anything else, I would just like to give a little. You started, all right, true. I just want to give a little comment as a viewer of the film. The fact that I was able to get so flustered with Elijah or like get so annoyed with Renelle is just a testament to how much effort you'll put into the film. Because obviously, if it wasn't shot as nicely or as well, or if you didn't work so hard with developing those characters, I wouldn't have felt those emotions. So like, I'm going on like Elijah, but I mean that just shows that it is a really great film because to evoke emotions from an audience member, to have them actually feel like Elijah was real. He was real. Renelle was real. I was like, girl, what are you doing? But she can't hear me. I'm like, girl, wake up, open your eyes. But she's on her screen. So the fact that I was able to feel those things, I mean, I'm just saying because I'm just an individual. But I mean, I feel like that's also what the viewers were able to see. They're able to relate to it and be like, okay, these are actual people. So yeah, that was just something I thought of all of a sudden. Back to the script. Well, I mean, like, we kind of touched on this as well. I realized because we answer all the questions with every question. So, were you intentional with the overall Caribbean aesthetic? And then how did you go about achieving it? Obviously, you'll talk about how you used actual people's homes, you used actual people's couches. So, I mean, obviously that would help with the overall backdrop because it is authentic. You didn't build the sets from scratch. But how did y'all go about, like, maintaining that aesthetic?
Well, we know in the Caribbean, it's very difficult to have closed sets. So you're using real environments, you know. We don't have a song stage that I know of. That is
one day.
Yeah. But, and again, that would be costly too, to build sets. Because the reality of filming, somebody passed with a car playing music. I didn't know that Trinidad, we have so many chickens. If you really pause and you listen. Or crickets. We had that, watch me. Crickets.
They're everywhere. Crickets and chickens.
We had a particular, there was a dinner scene, you know, at a restaurant there. And the amount of the cicada, that's what you call it?
You could kind of hear it a little bit.
Yeah, it was difficult, you know, like, because sometimes you'll drop stones in the trees to try and stop them. But again, these are the realities of the challenges. But again, these are real songs. We just take them for granted, you know. But so we try to include them. You know, again, when we take room tone, you try to include some of those elements. Somebody passing, you adapt it. You know, you just have to take into consideration, okay, even if somebody passed with this car and is playing music, we got to make sure in the next take, you know, where was it? And so, again, you as a filmmaker, your head always rolling with continuity. But thankfully, you know, we were able to try and include so many elements that are, in a sense, local. The clothing, everything. You know, we thought about it, how they speak, how they say things. Nah, you're not singing like that. We don't say it like that, you know. So even though we had a script, what worked for our actors is that we tell them, make it, say it how you would say it. So keep the essence of it, but say it how you would say it, because we want it to come across as believable. You must know when somebody is thinking about what they're going to say. So you could see that they're thinking and they're regurgitating lines. We want them to be in the moment. How would you feel if you walk in and you see your boyfriend with some other girl or whatever on his shirt or whatever? All right?
Man, that frustrated me so much. Okay, now I could tell how natural the act. Well, Renelle, that's her real name. She was.
Yes.
She was like every few words, no Elijah, no Elijah. I'm like, she must have felt like she was actually that character.
Yeah. So you want them to be engrossed in the moment. So you make them feel as though that they are these characters. Say it how you would say it, all right? Sometimes they would ad-lib, and that works. Sometimes we have to come back and say like, hey, I know that was great, but you need to kind of still stay within the essence. But again, they were all accommodating. They were all understanding because we had key points, you know, that they had to say to tie in with the another scene.
I understand
You
so
understand.
much. I understand
You understand.
completely.
But you have to be flexible when you come in with non-professionals. If you want that level of authenticity on the screen, right? They're not able to be this totally abstract character that you portray, unless they have a lot of work that you put into that. But thankfully, they were able to portray these characters because we brought it to a level where they were able to connect with these characters.
And then in turn, showcase the Caribbean aesthetic within the film. So I was bringing it back to the question, trying to be professional, you know, trying to be professional. I want to get hired again. Hopefully you'll see me in future episodes.
Donate now. Yeah.
Donate now. Third microphone. I like that when you started up answering the question, because when I asked the question, I was thinking more set dressing, wardrobe, completely forgetting one of the most important things in film, sound. And that was your instant. We're just bringing up Cedric would be proud. I mean, he's still around, so he is proud. When he watches this, he'll be like, yes, come on. This has been a fun interview.
Indeed, it was.
It was just really lovely to sit and chat with y'all. I wish I could have. There were a bunch of moments I wanted to step in and then make the conversation go longer. But I mean, I don't think Nariba would appreciate a 5-hour-long podcast.
No, it would go with no one.
Yeah, I mean, if you cut it down and play those little fun videos of Minecraft, I would have listened to the 5-hour podcast. All right, so what really stood out to me most of all, you're talking about exactly what I just said there, how y'all are focusing on yourselves as filmmakers and how y'all are going to develop and improve. That's very amazing. I think that's a good message for not only young filmmakers, but people who've been in the industry for a while. Because even people who have been in the industry for 10 and 15 years, they still compare themselves to not only outside the Caribbean, but people in the Caribbean. They're so competitive with that mindset. Like, oh gosh, we have to do better than so-and-so. Yeah. And that's kind of hard because it should be more of a community. And I like that your set is a community-based set. And there's harmony and y'all are growing together and you're helping people and you're helping each other. And it's just beautiful. I
really think as an industry, we have to try to not focus so much. I know the technical part is important, but that will come. That will grow. And the more you do, and when you look at this entire TikTok generation and these individuals, I mean, when you look at Certified Samson and the success that he is having right now.
His ice cream shop.
I mean, when you look at his technical ability from where he started, but yet his stories were funny. They were compelling. And over time, doing it over and over and over, he bettered his craft. He was able to upgrade his cameras, all these different things. And this is where he is today. That many persons are sitting and looking at him. You know, again, start doing it. Sometimes we are hindering our own self because of fear. So let's just step out and try and tell our own stories and tell it in our own way. Because as film students, as filmmakers, when we were here, you know, we had all these visions and we, you know, and for you, Rebecca, I know you're very creative also. So again, just get out there.
Just make the films.
Make it.
Just make the films.
I just say, Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Can you get copyrighted for that? We'll see. We'll find out. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a quick fire, rapid fire questions. Feel free, Kivonne. We're going to do Stephan first. So feel free to make up a quick fire question as well if you want to. You can keep one in mind and I'll hit you. Okay. And then I won't really hit you. I'll just point at you. Okay. And then you'll be like, just asking the question. Okay, but when I'm done, pace yourself. I'm the main character right now.
I'm the boss, yeah.
I'm the boss. Listen to what I'm saying. All right. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Sweet treats or savory bites?
Savory.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Non-fiction.
I thought you were going to say in between because you would. Marvel or DC?
None of the above.
I mean, that's understandable. Yeah. I mean, the DC comics are great, though. The comic books themselves are awesome. Okay.
Yes?
Ask him. What's your quick fire question you weren't thinking?
Favorite film?
The harder they come. It was one of them.
Right now, you think of your quick fire question for Kivonne. I'm going to go to him now. Prepare yourselves. Beach or pool?
Beach.
Which is weird, right? Because pool just water, but beach has sand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it makes sense you choose beach. Pool's weird.
I like the outdoors.
Burger or pizza?
Burger.
Hey, it's not for you, but I agree pizza, even though I'm lactose intolerant. Indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors.
Classic cinema or contemporary films?
A little bit of both.
Hey, it's or, not and or.
Contemporary then.
What is your favorite color on a Monday?
Oh, that's very specific. That's not quick fire.
I like dark colors.
I know filmmakers are supposed to wear dark colors.
Yeah.
And the people behind the camera said you have to wear bright colors.
Yeah.
I had to dig up and find this shirt, and y'all just wore dark colors. So I'm just out. I'm just looking out of time in here. Am I a filmmaker? Oh yeah. I should have been in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Wait, we didn't get any of that in the microphone. Donate now for a third microphone.
Just proving a point.
All right, so thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming, even though you work here And you're always here, so, but thanks anyway. Thank you everybody for listening. Oh, well, I was going to ask that last. Hold on. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say thank you everybody, then I was going, wait, what's your favorite podcast? As in, like, how could I forget?
The Russian.
Yo, keep this all in. They're affecting my creativity. You know, I have a vision, even though I'm not the director, but I'll do exactly what they said. Before I end the podcast and say my farewell to the audience, what's your favorite podcast?
It's a film thing.
It better be.
You
You know. Yeah, if you know, you know. And you know, you know. Wait, copyright. Okay, so thank you everybody for coming. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed.
It was a pleasure.
I mean,
It was a pleasure.
yeah, I wish we could have talked more again. As I said, I wish it could have been 5 hours because I could talk for years. So subscribe, like, comment, watch the films, the trilogy. Look out for the drugs movie. That's not what it's going to be called, though.
Choices is the drugs movie. The next one, we didn't figure the name out as yet.
All right, and I guess this is farewell. Let's all yell, it's a film thing. In 3, 2, 1.
It's a film thing.